I'm excited to present today two of our own CAMTA members, Shaun Flynn and Chris Goldston. Let me introduce them to you. Shaun is a self-employed teacher and teaches clarinet and piano, as well as theory and music history. He received his bachelor degree at Susquehanna University in education and performance and earned his master's degree at Chicago College of Performing Arts. Chris is a nationally certified teacher of music, holds a bachelor degree in performance from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, and a master's degree in performance and pedagogy from Northwestern University. He has taught at Columbia College Chicago and the Sherwood Conservatory and currently maintains an independent studio. And I should also mention that both are very active here at CAMTA and at the MTNA. Shaun is the current treasurer of CAMTA, and Chris was one of the past presidents of CAMTA. He was also a president of ISMTA and currently serves as the National MTNA Secretary and Treasurer. Shaun and Chris will lead a discussion on technology use in your studio, including apps such as Facebook, YouTube, and Foursquare, strategies for social media use, consent and camera usage with K-12 students, virtual recitals, and studio management aids. And by the way, the session will be recorded and later posted on a public YouTube playlist. If you have a question or a comment but prefer not to appear on the video, then please type them in the chat or refrain and wait until the end of the recording. Thank you so much. And Shaun will open the presentation. Please welcome with me, Shaun Flynn.
Everyone. Hope you're having a great week. Thanks for that introduction, Yumi. So this presentation is based on the information I collected from you, CAMTA members, and the questionnaire that we sent out. By the end of this Tech Talk, I hope that you'll have a few useful tips, strategies, and mind frames you can use for the benefit of your teaching studios. Thanks to those of you who completed the questionnaire. It was very helpful. The purpose of this Tech Talk is not to convince you that you need to use social media or iPad. I'm here to help those of you who are curious and want to learn about using these technologies. It doesn't matter to me if you use social media or not, but I'm willing to help if you want. So from working online with teachers and students in groups and private lessons, I've had to develop online ethics policies. We're going to start with my camera usage policies, and then we'll move on to consent a little later when we're discussing posting images of children online. So you may all turn your cameras off if you like. You may keep them on if you want. You may use an appropriate background. None of these are in any way disrespectful. And there are some important reasons why these policies exist, so I want to go over them quickly. First, mandating that cameras stay on is no guarantee that I've got your attention. In fact, some people interact best in the chat. You can lose those people by forcing them to be on camera. But I think most importantly are the burdens that are presented by camera usage. They fall more heavily on disadvantaged people. If I'm comfortable with allowing folks to look into my home, that's great. But it's not okay to project that comfort onto somebody else. Everyone has different boundaries. Some people need more privacy than others for our online teaching work to be effective. People, and especially children, I know I work with pre-K through 12 children mostly. I teach all ages. I have adult students too, but mostly pre-K through 12. I know many of you are the same. But especially children who do not have the luxury of live streaming from a beautiful space filled with possessions that they are proud of. They are hyper aware of socioeconomic factors at play on a screen. Someone with camera-induced anxiety can't learn well. And in that instance, you've lost another person. Camera usage can force people into rooms that they don't want to be in. I know personally, my wife and I both work from home all of the time, and there are better spaces in our home to work remotely, but we can't both occupy the same space at the same time. I've seen online auditions where children are playing in their bathroom, for example. And maybe they like the acoustics in there, I don't know, but wouldn't it be nice if they could have auditioned and had their screen turned off? Maybe that would have helped their audition a little bit. People have roommates, and if your roommate is walking around taking a shower, I'm sure you don't want that on a camera. I have seen my fair share, more than my fair share, of full frontal nudity online, and I would rather not. So, turning the camera off is very beneficial in many instances. Parents have trouble arranging for childcare sometimes. If a parent has to wrangle their child, sometimes they want to turn their screen off so they're not distracting from meetings. Meetings like our meeting, they're recorded sometimes, and people just don't want to appear online in a video. My wife was in a meeting recently, and the person that was running the meeting, I would characterize it as berated everyone to turn their screen on. And there was someone at the meeting who had just had surgery, and they wanted to turn their screen off. But because their camera was on, then they felt like they had to explain to everyone why they looked the way they did. And I think if someone is feeling ill or someone has had surgery and they come to a meeting anyway, the best response is thank you, not turn on your screen. So if you work with children online like I do, I encourage you to think deeply about this issue. It's really worth your time, and it's beneficial to your students for sure. Okay, next I have a Tech Talk disclaimer. Everything that we talk about today will probably change. Technology is constantly changing. So that means you'll have to relearn various skills, and buttons will be in new places, etc., so on and so forth. But they can seem overwhelming, but I also think I see it as an advantage, really, because we are all sort of equalized, having to relearn technology from the beginning at some point. So eventually I will show you one of my favorite tips to learn new technology when we talk about YouTube a little later. So let me pull up my slide deck. Social media, we're going to start with that this morning. Social media used to be a lot simpler. You just interacted with your friends. It is vastly different now. Social media can be a huge time waster, and one of the things I want to do is avoid wasting your time. So it helps to have some sort of strategy to use social media and some basic understanding of what's happening on social media. Whether or not social media can benefit your studio depends on you. It depends on your goals and your willingness to be open and try things until you find what works best for you. So to get started with social media, it's good to answer these questions. What is your goal on social media? Who is your audience? Very important. What is your desired outcome for using a social media platform? Who are you trying to reach? What problem can you help your audience solve? The answer to these questions will inform you how to proceed. And I've got suggestions for those of you who are interested in using social media to learn. More on that soon. So here are the results of the survey that I sent out to everyone, where I asked these exact questions. 3 biggest goals for social media use indicated by the members of CAMTA. So all of those of you who filled out the questionnaire indicated that you are interested in connecting with students, and some of you specified you're interested in connecting with previous students. And for my purposes today, I'm assuming you are also interested in connecting with current students. Many of you want to connect with parents in your studios, and many of you want to work on your own personal learning. I think these are great goals. We can definitely work with that. So once you identify what your goals are, you're going to have to deal with content. What is it? Content is basically everything you post on social media. People go on social media platforms to consume and or produce content. Individuals have the advantage when it comes to content marketing because people do not want to interact personally with corporations like Pepsi, for example. If you think about it, large companies, they only exist on paper. You can't have a conversation with Apple. And why would you want to have a conversation with Apple? Like, it doesn't seem like it'd be a very interesting thing. So on social media, people are trying to connect with other people. That means that individuals have an advantage, and it's important to understand that. So what is content marketing? It's basically content that is informative, relevant, interesting, and useful to your target audience. There are four types: written word, audio, video, and images. And you can combine these four types of content. I'm sure you've seen memes. That's an example of combining an image with written word. But you can combine all four types. It's important to understand that too. Why do this? High content or high quality content makes your brand valuable over time. It also strengthens your reputation as a leader in your field. So I think a good example of this, and it's kind of for me a funny example, is one of the largest YouTube accounts. It's called PewDiePie, and it has it well the person that runs it, his name is Felix Schellberg, and he has 100 million followers. His videos have been viewed over 1 billion times. And ABC reported that he makes over $1 million a month posting these videos. He posts videos of himself playing video games, and they're funny. I haven't watched many of them, to be honest, because it doesn't appeal to me, and I'm not his target audience. But I think it's really interesting that he has more followers than Fortune 500 companies. He's got more followers than Beyonce, and his account is very successful. And I'm not trying to suggest that you go online to make a lot of money, but rather the point I'm making is that if you provide the right content to the right audience, that's how you can be successful on social media. So, for example, if you rely on word of mouth to find students, like I know many of us do, content marketing to your existing parents and students can teach them how to spread the word about your studio, and that will help you identify and find the exact type of student you're looking to teach. One idea. So if you carefully identify who you want to connect with and what content they find useful, you can build a successful account. But be careful, if you post fantastic content that nobody wants, or if you're posting great content on the wrong platform, you're essentially wasting your time that could be better spent elsewhere. So it's important to, once you identify your audience, you have to find them. I wanted to see if CAMTA's express goals fit with which platform members are on, so here are the results. So in this slide, I'm showing you the interest level of CAMTA members in the platforms that are listed. These are some of the biggest platforms. So we've got, most of you are on Facebook and YouTube, and I think most of you are very interested in these two platforms, probably because we've been streaming recitals on Facebook and YouTube. I know many of you are interested in learning how to do that. So I've listed the platforms from left to right in order of how many users they have. Facebook by far is the biggest, 2.8 billion monthly users. YouTube has 2 billion monthly users. Instagram has 1 billion monthly users. And TikTok has 1 billion monthly users also. So the highest percentage of, I guess we'll start with Facebook, the highest percentage of Facebook users are between the ages of 25 and 34. But I will also say Facebook is aging. The users between the ages of 25 and 34, that's about 25.7%. And these statistics I'm getting from a website called Statista, who studies this stuff. The users between the ages of 45 and 54 make about 14%. About 11% are between the ages of 55 and 64, and about 11% are 65 and plus. So you can see in the age group 45 and over, it's a significant part of Facebook. As my students say, my grandma's on Facebook, which makes me feel great. It's a good place if you're looking to connect with parents. And if you have students, past students, maybe from the 90s or the early 2000s, Facebook is a good place to connect with them. I will also tell you, in general, social media is trending toward video. So it should be no surprise that all kinds of people are on YouTube. Across the board, there's a very even spread. So it's a good place to connect with almost anyone. 77% of folks between the ages of 15 and 35 use YouTube, and 77% of people between the ages of 26 and 30. Oh, I said that one already. 15 and 30. Yeah. So the highest percentage of people using YouTube are between the ages of 15 and 35. But there are also, 67% of people 56 and plus are on YouTube. It's a great place to connect with anyone. So you may be wondering, why is TikTok on here, Shaun? It says that CAMTA members are not very interested in this. but I want to point out that TikTok is very young. So if you are looking to connect with current students, this may be a very good place for you. And I use TikTok a little bit in my studio. I don't have an account, but what I do is I am just aware of viral trends that happen on TikTok, and you can use that to your advantage. There was just recently this silly trend of sea shanty videos on TikTok. TikTok is a platform where you scroll through videos. People post, videos of themselves dancing and really just doing all kinds of things. And so there was a sea shanty video. I showed up to lessons that week with sea shanties, and it was a great way for me to have my students be engaged in their lesson. They learned some sea shanties and they posted videos on TikTok. Before that, earlier in 2021, I think there was a Christmas trend, and it wasn't Christmas in July, so I don't understand what was happening there. It was in the summer, I think, and so I showed up to lessons with Christmas music, and students learned it. It was fun, and they posted their TikTok videos. So that's one way you can use TikTok. Another way, some other ways, ideas that I have for using these social media platforms. You could, some teachers make closed groups for their studio. So you're probably all aware of our closed group with CAMTA, which is for CAMTA members, but why not make one for your studio? It makes a group which is a little bit more private for you to share videos of your students and communicate with parents. If you have a closed group on Facebook, it's a great way to share announcements or encourage camaraderie in your studio. You can tell your families when their payment is due for AIM. It's a great place to post assignments for students. You can congratulate students on their accomplishments. On that point, I want to mention TikTok. Instagram. I have a friend who's a band director at Revis in Burbank. It's a high school. TikTok is a great place to connect with teens. And the band program at Andy's school has an Instagram page. And they post funny pictures of the directors, and they kind of roast them. They post pictures of what the marching band is doing. They share photos of students who have won awards. They have a really fun time on this social media platform. The students are engaged. Everyone is kind of communicating. They share when assignments are due. They remind students to practice in funny ways. And it's a lot of fun for everyone to use. Another idea I have for you is, if you're not sure what to do on one of the social media platforms, follow another teacher who's been on them for a long time. You can get great ideas from other teachers. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a music teacher. Follow a math teacher. I follow psychologists, children's psychologists online. They post really great videos. There's a woman with the one of the institutes in Chicago that teaches Spanish, and she posts little Spanish lessons on an Instagram page, and they're like 30 seconds long. You could easily post a little video that's 10 seconds, 30 seconds long, and just go over one quick little thing and make a really great piece of content. So last tip I have is that you should try to start with one platform and do it well, or decide if it's not working and then switch to another one, so that you're not wasting your time. I think if you go onto every single platform all at once and you try and do all the things, you could really be in a situation where you're wasting your time. So try to start with one. So next, we're talking about posting images online of children, essentially. So I want to talk about consent briefly. And the way I think about it is the tea analogy. There was a British police department, the Thames Valley Police, that posted a funny video about consent in 2015 using this tea analogy. And I think it's useful to think about posting images of people online too. So this is kind of my homage. Think of posting images online like you're making someone a cup of tea. We don't force people to drink tea by pouring it into their mouths, even if it's really good tea. We ask if someone would like a cup of tea. And then, if you go through the trouble of making a cup of tea and someone changes their mind, you wouldn't pour the tea into their mouth. Maybe someone takes a few sips of this really great tea you've made, and then they decide, you know what, no, I don't want any more tea. You would not pour the tea into their mouth, even if you're a little frustrated that you went through the trouble of making this really great cup of tea. Posting photos online is similar. Sometimes there are situations when people can't consent to drinking tea, or maybe consent to having their image posted online. So in that situation, we ask parents for consent when we're posting their children's images online. If someone is unconscious, you can't ask for consent. So in situations where someone is not able to consent, you can't force them to drink tea, for example. You can't force them, you can't post things without asking, essentially, which I see lots of teachers asking for consent. I think teachers do a really good job of this. I wish I would see as much effort asking, should we be doing this? However, the internet makes it hard to forget things. So sometimes posting images of children online can cause them to lose the ability to revoke consent later in their life. And sometimes simply asking parents and students for consent isn't good enough. I want to mention two people, they were children at the time, who had videos go viral on the internet, and it was really traumatic for them. Their names are Rebecca Black. She was in a viral video that maybe some of you have seen. It was called Friday. It was a little music video. She sang a silly song, and her video went viral. And she was, as a result, bullied at school so badly, her parents had to remove her from that school. That's really traumatic for a kid. And I also want to make the point that the two behaviors that I'm talking about are common for children. Singing silly songs, kids do that all the time. The next person I want to mention, his name is Gislain Raza. You may know him as the Star Wars kid. He was in a video. This video went viral, and I remember it very well, around 2002. He had a pole. It's some type of golfing tool. I don't know anything about golf, I'm sorry, but he was whipping it around in a video like it was a lightsaber. And I'm sure many of you have seen children wield an imaginary lightsaber. It's common. Children do things like this all the time. Somebody got a hold of Mr. Raza's video, and they added Star Wars music and blasters firing. They turned the pole into a lightsaber, and it was really funny. The video went viral, and he was bullied so badly he also had to be taken out of school. But the bullying was so bad his parents could not find a school for him where he wasn't being bullied, so he ended up having to be homeschooled. And again, these behaviors are not, they're not unusual for children. What's unusual is that the internet makes it impossible to forget these things once videos go viral. So you want to be aware of this. You can and you should teach very young children about consent by asking them for their permission to post their image online, in addition to asking their parents' permission. This helps children develop an awareness that they can consent or not, and it gets them thinking. So I would encourage you, if you ask for consent and a child says no, then honor their request, even if their parent says yes. These issues are really important. Okay, so next I want to answer excuse me, a question. When I run these online trainings, I always get wonderful, very specific questions, and I usually can't answer them all, but I want to show you a way that you can answer these questions for yourself using YouTube. So this is one of my favorite little hacks. I'm just going to navigate to YouTube. Oops. And here I'll just read one of the questions I received on the questionnaire. One of them was, how do you block someone on Facebook? So if you have a specific question like this, and I saw many of them on the questionnaire, they were all very good. One of the things you can do is you can go to YouTube for help. So up here on the search bar, I'm just going to type the question in. How do you block someone on Facebook? If you have a question about using social media or technology or whatever, someone else has probably also had the same question. So you can see I have a couple accounts that pop up right away where this question has been answered. Now you want to vet the accounts before you look at them to answer your question, and I'll show you some ways to do that. One of the most important ways, we mentioned technology changes frequently. You want to see how old the video is that answers your question. So the first video that popped up, it looks like it has 73,000 views. That's a good sign. It's been viewed many times, so somebody is watching this. But it's 2 years old, so I think that's too old for us. The next video is 7 years old. Whoa, that's way too old to answer your question. YouTube, well, all of the social media platforms have changed a great deal in 7 years. It looks like it was good. It had 147 views. Another way you can vet these channels is by looking at their subscribers. Here's one, Foxy Tech Tips, that's 11 months old. This one's looking pretty good. Notice in the title there is a year. This account, which has, this video in particular has over 1,000 views, that's pretty good. This account, it looks like they are aware of how content marketing works. And that's a good sign, because if they are posting content, they want to make sure their content is useful. They want to make sure it's something their audience wants. So if you're their audience and these people have this account has, you know, 1 million subscribers, this video has thousands of views, and it's recent, there's a good chance that this will answer your question adequately. And if it doesn't answer the question adequately, people will comment. People can like or dislike these videos, and you can check all those things out to kind of vet them and see what's happening. I did watch this video. I'm not going to watch it today because I don't have the rights for this video, but it answered the question, and it answered the question correctly. So I use this to learn about this hack to learn about new technology all the time, but you can use it in other ways too. I bought a Honda a few years ago, and the dealership wanted to charge me like $100 to change the air filters. So instead I went on YouTube and I pulled up a couple video tutorials and I watched them, and now I changed the air filters myself. It saved me $100. So that's great. Good, next, let me see how we're doing on time. Oh good, I'm almost out of time. I wanna go over live streaming Zoom recitals onto Facebook. That's not it. Facebook and YouTube. So I think the ingredients are probably one of the most important things to be aware of if you're going to stream your recitals from Zoom onto YouTube. So here they are. First, you will need a Facebook account, which is free. You will need a YouTube account, which is free. A Zoom account, which is not free. And they cost approximately $154 a year for the pro account. My wife has a pro account. She lets me use it to stream my recitals. I don't post my recitals on Facebook or YouTube because of the childhood being hard to forget, which we talked about a little bit. But you'll need a pro account, which is, you can pay it for monthly too, I should mention, or it's $150 a year. If you're going to stream online, I recommend you have a high-speed internet connection with a wire that's plugged into your device that you're streaming from, so that the connection isn't interrupted and that it's a good connection. And those are the ingredients for your recital on YouTube. Actually, doing it is quite simple. You just click a button that says broadcast and it goes to YouTube. You have to set that up, which I can show you how to do, but that part is very simple. I think this is probably the most complicated part. So then quickly, I mentioned I have some resources for those of you who are interested in learning. This idea about the internet making childhood hard to forget, I got that from Dr. Kate Eichhorn. She wrote a book called The End of Forgetting. She's an internet scholar and an early internet scholar. She's also a parent. So she talks about and writes about how the internet affects childhood. And I think she has a lot of wonderful things to say about it, and definitely has some fantastic ideas. So I recommend her work for sure. If you're on Facebook, one of my favorite pages is called EdSurge. I love them. They're an independent education technology information resource and community. Their articles are fantastic and they're based in research. Another resource I have for you is Decolonizing the Music Room. They're all over social media. They have a Facebook account, they're on YouTube, they're on Instagram, they're on Twitter. They are a nonprofit organization that uses research to train and help music educators develop critical practices and center Black, Brown, Indigenous, and Asian voices, knowledge, and experiences in order to change the historical dominance of Western European and white American music narratives and practices. I've learned tons from going onto their groups and kind of following the conversation. Let's see. Then last, good, I can wrap this up really quickly. I'm not going to talk too much about iPad and Fourscore today. I'll just mention a few things. Since this presentation is virtual, it would be hard to show, you can't, this is my iPad, but it would be very hard to kind of get in here and show you how everything works. But I will tell you, this is the iPad I use. It's about the size of a sheet of paper. So it's the big iPad Pro, which I like best. I like a big iPad because it makes me feel like I'm using a piece of paper. Next time we're all at a meeting in person, please come up to me. I'll probably have my iPad and I'll just hand it to you and you can feel what it's like. I'll let you use the stylus, which I think is very important if you're gonna write on music using an iPad. And I'll show you how everything works. But I've got a few recommendations for apps, like Fourscore, for example. I don't know any professional who doesn't use Fourscore. It's that good. It costs about $15 for this app, but it's a wonderful app. So if you're going to use iPad to play gigs live, you really should get Fourscore. It's a wonderful app. Another app that I use, especially for teaching, is Kindle, believe it or not. It has method books, which I love because I don't want to put method books in my home. My home is starting to look like a music lending library, but it is not. Having all these files on my Kindle is so good. I have every single method book I could ever want on my iPad, and I don't have a physical copy taking up space in my home. They've got the Suzuki books, they have Faber books, Piano Adventures, Music for Little Mozarts, which I like to use with my little ones, John Thompson's books are on there, like the Teaching Little Fingers series, which is wonderful. Shaun's on there. They have publishers like Alfred, Hal Leonard, tons of resources on Kindle that are just on your iPad, not taking up space. The last app that I want to mention, some of you expressed interest in converting your paper music to a digital file. So I like an app called the Tiny Scanner. It turns your cell phone into a scanner. Scanners used to be, well, and are still, if you have a physical one, huge, and they take up so much space. Oh my lord. But the Tiny Scanner app is so easy. You just put a piece of paper down on a table, you snap a photo of it, and the app converts it into a PDF like that. You can then upload your PDFs to your Google Drive or wherever you store files. But I will say Google Drive is free. You can have as many of them as you want. So if you're storing lots of music, I recommend Google Drive. It also works very well with Fourscore. So those are my recommendations for iPad and what apps to use. Good, then I guess I will wrap up. So finally, I want to thank all of you for your attention today. I hope this was helpful. If you're still feeling that you want more help, I want to let you know that people do book time with me on an individual basis to assist with technology needs. Maybe you want someone to run your online recitals for you, or maybe you would like someone to train you one time so you can do it yourself moving forward. If you want someone to build you a website, or if you want someone to build a social media account for you, please feel free to email me or call me. I may be able to help you. So thanks a lot, and I'm going to pass it over to Chris now.
Thanks, Shaun. That was great, and it was really interesting to hear about all the social media stuff, especially. So I also am going to share my screen in just a moment, but we'll let this transition out. And thanks, Yubi, for inviting both of us to share our experiences. I'm going to see how much I can share with you in a short amount of time. And so hold on to your seats. Let's see what I can do here. So I'm going to share this, and I'm going to go to slideshow here, and I'm going to turn on my wand. This is my first time using Google Slides, so wish me luck. Okay, so here we are. I also just have a quick little disclaimer here. So the following ideas are what worked for me in my studio, but they might not work for you, or you might have ways that you're more comfortable using. So I'm not saying that my way is the only way, or even the best way. Is just the way that I happen to do things. But I am presenting a lot of material here, so hopefully you'll latch on to something that will help with your own studio. So you know that right before the pandemic, Sherwood closed, and I had to quickly start my own business, which was kind of an interesting thing because I had a full studio, but I then had to find my own space. I had to get a piano, furnishings. I had to work out my own policies, billing, recruitment, and marketing. All these things were done for me when I was working with a community music school, and now I suddenly was an independent teacher. So the most daunting things that I had to deal with were about billing and policies. So my music staff was recommended to me by Lynette Zellis. I'm sure that a lot of you know her from the West Suburban Group. My music staff is great, and my subscription is $13 a month for professional billing and record keeping. There's some other apps and resources like Fonz. I don't know much about that one because obviously I am using my music staff, and but I hear that Fonz is great for people who do lots of scheduling and such, and there might be others as well. And if you ever can't hear me or anything like that, just let me know, or if you're not seeing what I'm seeing. So here is a little bit of what my music staff looks like. You see that there's a ton of things here. Calendar for scheduling, a list of all your students. You could list a rep, your lending library. There's some online resources, families and invoices, year-end reports and such as that. You can put in your mileage if you're traveling. I use very little of this, to be honest. I use the students to have all of my student information there, and then I use the family and invoices because I mainly use it for the billing. So family and invoices tab looks like this. So you can add transactions like payments and charges, recital fees, the lesson fees, all of that. Invoices is where you would be creating your invoices. Auto invoicing is if you want to set it up to automatically send out invoices to all of your students. And then also the recent transactions so that you can see who has paid recently and things like that. So this is what the invoices look like. You see I redacted a lot of the information there. One thing that I'll point out is that I just redid my website, had someone do it for me, and I also paid someone to create a new logo for me because I'm starting to self-publish. So this is my new logo. It's a whole note on a staff that's stylized into a G, the way that my mom used to make her Gs. But what I was really amazed about is that when I uploaded this logo into my music staff, it recognized the color and then matched all of the fonts and highlighted stuff to that color of my logo automatically. So I just think this looks so incredibly professional. You know, it has I have my recital fees and payments here, lessons, and it's just very professional looking, something that I wouldn't be able to do on my own. Likewise, this is what the receipts look like. You can see how my music staff's technology automatically looked at the Pantone of my logo and matched the colors, so that's great. Obviously, there is information below there. So there's a couple of ways that you can do billing from the calendar. So it's basically charging by the lesson. You can do a fixed monthly rate or by the semester or quarter, which is how I do it. I actually have my students pay for four payments over 5 months for each semester there. For payment, Stripe and PayPal, you can have those set up directly on the invoice so that people can pay just by clicking a button. So Stripe is for credit card. You do have fees for that. PayPal has even higher fees. Most of my students actually look at the amount on the invoice and then they Zelle me the money because that's free to me. But the really nice thing about my music staff is that you can set up the convenience fees so that no convenience fee means that the student doesn't have a convenience fee or a credit card fee, but you as the teacher, you're eating that fee. You could split the fee with your students, or you could do a percentage. So you could say that the student is going to pay 100% of the credit card charge. And so, you know, if it's a large amount, that could be $3 or something like that. So by the end of the year, you know, you have paid, you know, several $100s in credit card fees. So it's really interesting that in my music staff, you can actually set it up so that so that the person who's paying is also in charge of the fees. I don't do that. I just eat the fees myself. But that is handy for those who would like to do that. You might remember that Chris Narlock gave a really great presentation a couple of years ago about studio management. And one thing that he mentioned was making sure that you register with Google. And so at the time I thought, oh, I'm never going to need to know how to do that because I'm teaching at Sherwood. Well, that ended, and one of the first things that I happened to do for myself when I opened up a new studio in the Fine Arts Building was to register my business. Now, if you type in Goldston Music Studio, you see that it doesn't say Fine Arts Building, it has Goldston Music Studio right there on Google Maps. So I would recommend that you maybe consider registering your business with Google. It's pretty easy to do, but I think it took a month or two because I think they have to email you some things. I see some things coming in the chat. I'll look at those shortly. So that was all before COVID. Now everything has changed and everyone has been thrust into virtual teaching and relying on technology. So we're all virtual teaching. So this is some of my young ones from a couple of days ago. And there are pros and cons, obviously, to virtual teaching. And I'm sure all of you have felt this. The pros are that you don't have to travel. And it also saves time and money because you're not traveling. And you're avoiding illness. Also, if you have multiple cameras like I do, then it makes it, it can be very effective, just as effective as teaching in person. These are really tremendous pros, and I have to admit that I have been loving virtual teaching and my students have been loving it too. The cons are sometimes there are unstable internet connections, and it's harder to hear things like pedal and dynamics, and it's harder to model things like technique and gestures. All of you have dealt with this, but like it or not, virtual teaching is definitely here to stay. And yes, pants are required. So I'm going to look at some of the various virtual teaching platforms that you have. FaceTime, Zoom, Rock Out Loud, Skype, Google Meet. I'm just going to focus on FaceTime, Zoom, and Rock Out Loud. I'm not as familiar with the other two, but I know some of you are. So for FaceTime, the pros are, it really does have great audio and video, I find, and it usually has been very stable. It's also free. But the cons are that there's not a waiting room, so you have to make a separate call for every student. There's only speaker and presenter view where the other person's really big and you're really small, but there's no grid view and you can't share your screen. You also can't record, and it's limited to Apple users. So that definitely is, you know, a con. For Zoom, the pros are you do have a waiting room, you can share your screen, you can do recording, which is great. You can also make it so that the student can record locally to their computer if you just want to record a short piece for them or something like that. And you can switch between the views so that you're the same size as the student or that they have a dominant screen. And it has extensive audio settings. But the cons are is that it's an additional fee for most people. Mine, I have a pro account because I am teaching at Columbia, but it also has very complicated audio settings and it's built for talking, not music. So that's why you have to do that whole enables original sound thing. Because it just focuses in on the talking and thinks that music is background noise. And it's a separate app, so that's a bother. Rock Out Loud, I have tried that. Very similar to Zoom. It has a waiting room. You can share your screen. There's the grid or presenter view. It's built for music teaching, so it has already enabled original sound so that you're hearing everything. Instead of just focusing on the human voice. And it also has additional music features and browser-based. But the cons are that you can't do recording in it, and sometimes I found that there was some audio feedback sometimes that was a little bit weird, and there's an additional fee. And you know, Yumi or Shaun, if you see anything that I need to address in the chat, just let me know because I'm barreling through. But virtual teaching with my old computer that was, you know, pushing 8 years old or something like that, I really used FaceTime almost all the time, but I did use Rock Out Loud and Zoom for a couple of students. But Mac just came out, Apple just came out with the new computers, and I got one immediately because I desperately needed a new computer. I had been waiting for this day. So I am now on the on these MacBook Pros. So, but that changed things, and this was just a couple weeks ago. So now with the new computer and new operating system, FaceTime has additional settings, and my over the piano camera view was smaller, and the speaker view was smaller too, and I wasn't enjoying FaceTime quite as much. So you see that with FaceTime on my new computer, it only shows a portion of the overhead camera that I had, but Zoom and the old view that I had in FaceTime showed much more of the keyboard, which, I mean, that's kind of a deal breaker for me. I need the students to see more of my keyboard. I talked with Apple support and they didn't know what was going on with that. Plus, I'm even smaller than before. And student, Buddy, that's my brother's dog, is just huge. And it can be difficult when you're teaching if you want to see exactly what they're seeing. If you're so small, it's better to have equal parts there. So bye, puppy. So I do just want to point out that if you do have the new FaceTime and the new operating system, then in the top right-hand corner, you have this little toggle looking thing by the time and date. And so you have to go there and turn off the video effects because now FaceTime automatically blurs your background. Plus, you also have to change the mic mode to wide spectrum, which is basically enabling original sound. Because otherwise it's focusing on a voice because it's copying Zoom. So these are new things that I found with my new computer in the last couple of weeks. Zoom, you've seen all kinds of things like this. For the audio settings, I'm just going through the settings here. The settings are down by the microphone. You click on audio settings, and then you want to make sure that the automatically adjust microphone volume is off. You have the suppressed background noise on low so that you hear everything for the piano. And the first three for the music and professional audio are checked for echo cancellation, original sound, and all of that. By the way, I will share this slideshow with Yumi so that you guys can look at this later, so we can send this out. But this is also how my brain works. You see how many different little tabs and windows I had open when I snapped this. When you're in Zoom, you still have to turn on original sound when you're in the meeting. On an iPad, before you're in a meeting, you have to go to the meeting settings and original toggle for the use original audio. Then when you're in the meeting, you have to do the three dots there and enable original sound. I'm sure all of you already know this because we've all been teaching on Zoom. But let's keep moving to virtual recitals. I know some people use Zoom and do it in real time. Facebook Live do that in real time, or upload a really long video to YouTube or short videos to YouTube. I prefer the short videos to YouTube option for my virtual recitals, and I've done several of them at this point. So I have my students do separate, I have a separate video for every single student in the recital, and it's just a playlist because I find that it's easier to upload the shorter videos. It's faster to upload them, and it's also easier for them to share their individual performance there with family and friends. You can also have siblings in the same room doing duets. I've done duets with two students in different locations, or with the same person playing both parts in two different videos. I've had students accompany themselves, so playing violin and piano, and then we sync up the videos. And right now I'm working on a variation project for Jingle Bells, where multiple students, everybody has their own variation. So this is a lot here, but these are the guidelines that I go through for my students. I want them to record only one piece of video. So they're turning in multiple videos to me. And I want them to dress nicely and wear shoes. I'm sure that you've noticed that households with no shoes policies that causes a problem for pedaling and such. I want to have a video in profile so that it looks like you're watching a recital and not have a shaky camera, so a fixed shot. I want the videos in landscape, like widescreen, like a movie. I want to be able to see their face and fingers. And your phone really makes great videos, but the camera on the back side takes much better video than the front side. They should clean up their room and make sure everything is quiet. For my students, I just have them play. I don't have them announce their piece or bow or anything like that because I edit the videos. But I do have them start with their hands in their lap and then wait about 3 seconds at the beginning and end of each video so that it's easier for me to manipulate everything and edit. And I want them to smile and look like they enjoy playing piano and use good posture and all of that. So in iMovie, you can add a title slide, video clips, you could add applause. And I always include, my name because I figure that is a marketing tool here. So this is what YouTube looks like when you're in the back end of, iMovie. So you see I have my logo there, I have a title slide. You could go up here to titles, drag any of these titles down there, and then insert the video. These little things here are transitions. You don't have to use those, but if you want to like fade to black or blur in between video things, you could certainly do that. And so that's what the back end of iMovie is actually easier than you would think. You can also make a movie trailer for your recitals, which is kind of great fun. And they have all these pre-made ones that you can do there. And so making the movie trailer, you just start dropping videos in there and it takes a little snippet of each and you change the text. Super easy and fun for the students if you want a fun introduction to your recitals. So you do want to make sure that you carefully think about the settings and get permission from parents, just like Shaun was mentioning. So for student privacy, for all of my recital videos, they're unlisted videos, so they're not public. And I don't use any last names. If any of my students are playing pieces by myself or my mom, I do tell them that I'm going to put them on YouTube as a public video, but then I remove their name completely. And just know that if you make a video private, then it can't be added to a playlist. And I also disable all the comments and liking. So here's how to do all this stuff. You put in your title and your description, upload your video. Here's where you have the visibility for public, unlisted, or hidden. And this is an important button. You need to decide for yourself what your audience is for these recital videos, if it's made for kids or not made for kids. And I'm going to tell you the difference real quick. So for the made for kids, if your audience is mainly for the students, then that's great. But if you feel like your audience is really for the parents and the grandparents and all of that, then you might want to consider clicking no, it's not made for kids. The thing to think about for that, though, is that if you click that it is made for kids, you cannot add the video to a playlist. So that's something really important to note. Also, I disable the comments and I disable liking and disliking videos for all of my videos, public and private. People live to be mean on the internet, and I'm sensitive and I take things personally, and I just don't want to read some of that. Plus, you get spam in the comments too. So it's just good to disable the comments. I mean, that's what I do. You see here some of my playlists. These are the ones that are public. but I have many more because they're virtual recitals that you just don't see. But you see that I've also scoured the internet for students playing music of my mom and myself. So that's why there's like 173 videos there and 168. But then I have some of my own there too. You could subscribe for Goldston Music and see all that stuff. Okay, let's keep going. I see all kinds of things in the chat popping up, sorry. Google Drive, and I know that we're starting to run a little short on time, but Google Drive is really great. It has docs and forms and sheets and quizzes, storage and slides. So storage is how I collect the videos from the students. Quizzes, you can make self-grading theory tests, which is great. The forms is how I collect all the information about student scheduling. So these are all great. You can do the recital programs and docs. And so here's an example of Google Drive of like the theory tutorial sheets that I have for my students about how to play cadence chords, or some of my self-grading multiple choice quizzes that I have for my students on Google Drive. So this is a really great resource. And then also I use it for capturing information about when they can have their lessons at the beginning of the fall. And so I just have a very long and lengthy form for that as well. Google is just great for all of this. You might also consider going and looking at musictheory.net because they have some quizzes for key signatures and note recognition and intervals and all kinds of things. So this is a really great resource as well. I also have some other favorites. Note Rush and Flash Note Derby. Those are some really great note recognition apps. Speak Beat Metronome actually counts out loud for you 1 and 2 and it can do it in Chinese or French or Spanish or whatever you want. So that's great too. Voice Memos is on your phone. That is great for making recordings for your students. Shaun said he liked Tiny Scanner or something like that, but the one I use and know is called Genius Scan, and I have the paid version, which wasn't very much, and it's just fantastic. It actually auto recognizes the page size and it just scans it. So as you're making your scans for the Sonata Festival, I mean, it scans like 1 page a second. It's so fast. Piano Adventures Teacher Atlas has their entire library there. Canva for design, if you want to make fancy recital programs and such. All of my self-publishing covers are being made with Canva. And then, of course, Sibelius, Infinale, and Noteflight. But lastly, I wanted to just point out that web design, WordPress is kind of the standard. Wix is user-friendly and cheaper if you're thinking of doing a website. And Squarespace has some really beautiful templates, but it's a little bit more expensive. Janet Williamson has a great Squarespace website if you want to look at hers. But I just had my website redone. I paid to have it done over the summer. And so that's what mine looks like now. And it is a WordPress site. So let's see, I'm going to stop that presentation there for a quick second. And it's 3 after, but I would love to just quickly show you my website and YouTube just for a split second, and I promise I'll keep it brief. Is that okay, Mishumi?
Chris, take your time. It's really interesting what you both had to say, and it's so hands-on. If somebody has to leave, then they have to leave, but the rest, we are all eager to learn more. So please go ahead.
Sure. And I will, I will certainly look at this chat soon here. Okay, so my own website. You see here, I did pay some good money for this because I figured that I needed to add a store to start self-publishing. But it has my studio, which I'm not using very much, but that's in the Fine Arts Building. It has my mom, who passed in 2003, as you know, and myself, information about us, composer bios. And then these are the covers that I've been making in Canva, and a lot more will be going on at the beginning of the year. Of course, you have our bios here. You can toggle back and forth, read about us both. There's also a comprehensive list of our publications, of mom's publications, on and on and on, that are from Alfred, Galaxy, and FJH. But I also now am selling my own digital downloads. So I'm going to be adding to these. And so if I just click on one like this one, you can play a video of the piece that's a follow the score. I'll show you that in a second. And it's been a real learning curve to have a store and have digital downloads. But you just know that the publishers have been kind of having a difficult time. And so I just, now starting to self-publish and everything. Sorry, I got distracted by the chat there. I should have looked over there. But studio, general information, I have, my studio calendar there, which is very handy. More about me, my kiddos, hello kids, then some of our recital trailers and all that stuff are locations, so it's great for that Google registration there. I'm not going to look at this in great detail because it's policies and I shouldn't, but I just say that by reading all these policies, you're agreeing to everything. And so it has all this stuff. There is publicity about saying that I can, unless they opt out, I can use their image and videos, and also a COVID and infectious diseases policy there too, even though I'm still 90% teaching online, and then contact. But I do want to share with you, and I will just barrel through these just real quick, but I put together a quick playlist, and I am just going to show you a little bit of each, a couple seconds of each, and I will be finished in 5 minutes, I promise. This is a recital trailer for our most recent Halloween recital. So you can change the text in iMovie. And it's just fun. They get a kick out of seeing themselves, I think. You see that most everyone followed the directions of having a video and profile, so that's great. And there's my name everywhere. So that's, the trailers are great fun. This is a recital video. Halloween, so it's scary. It has her name on it. So I'm just pointing out that that has her name. And she's starting with her hands in her lap, and she plays. The difference, though, when since that was a piece by my mom, is that when I put this online as a public video, I have removed all references to the student's identity. So, and they have agreed to let me use their video. And then at the end, let's see if I can skip to the, you see that they just take time at the beginning and end to put their hands in their lap, so it looks like a regular recital performance there. I've also, you could add applause, and you see here also that I have siblings playing duets. I have had friends play duets. And so this was a trial because they both played with a metronome in their ear. So for the most part, the phasing was pretty good. I mean, they stayed pretty much together. It took a couple of times in a couple of different videos, but that's great. I want to jump to the middle of this one. I've had students accompany themselves. So that's great, especially if they play other instruments. I take no credit for their violin playing. And then I also have created these follow the score videos for my new publications. So, and these are just screenshots of the music. So that's my cover that I did in Canva. This was easier to do than I thought. So I'll be adding a lot more of those. And then lastly, I just wanted to point out,
season to gather
add,
bring the cheer, and share a little sparkle.
If you don't know about the University of Iowa Piano Pedagogy Project in Alan Huckleberry and Jason Sifford, their videos, they're all great. And there are hundreds or thousands of videos that they have there. So I would encourage you to look at that. Alan Huckleberry actually came and presented for CAMTA a couple of years ago about this very thing. I'm sure that you probably remember that. But there, I really like what Shaun said. I forced all that tea down your throat in a very quick amount of time. So sorry about that. But I just wanted to share as much with you as I could. And let's see, should I look and see if there are any comments here? Okay.
Chris, let me do that for you very quickly, because most of them were comments and also complimenting both of you how great your presentations were. I see here 3 questions, and maybe some of it was answered during your talk. One is from Cynthia. How exactly do you combine the parts of a duet? I mean, we saw in that video it was quite together. And then Shaun was also asking, I'd like to know how Chris does it. So you showed about iMovie. The way he does it is very hard. Yeah, I was thinking also it must take you so much time to edit all the videos. If you want to go a little bit very quickly into detail how you do it and how to save time, but I think it's very time consuming, right? And then the last question, which goes in the same direction, was from Terry. Is there something like iMovie for those of us who don't have an Apple device? And Shaun mentioned on Windows there's a video editor, if you have any other ideas.
Yeah. Well, so I will tell you just a couple of tricks about putting the duets together. And one is you'll see in the video when the sound starts, because it has like a graph of the sound. And so you could just line those up. It does take some time. And if a student doesn't play exactly with a metronome, then that is definitely harder. You could also have one student play and make their video, and then the other student play along with the video with it playing in their ear to line that up. That might work a little bit better instead of a metronome. If they're accompanying themselves while they're playing flute or something like that, then it's good if the piano part has an introduction by a couple of measures so that they know when to come in and all of that. And then they should record the piano part first and then put it in their ear and play their other instrument as well. I've had varying levels of success for the duets and everything, but it has been fun. And but you also do have to kind of carefully pick some of the duets because it really is helpful if one student has like a 2-measure introduction before the other part enters, so that you can line things up easier. And they have to play in time, because if they get off by a nanosecond, then the phasing is too bad by the end of the video to be usable. But I do have several examples of that in my on my YouTube channel, so you can go through and find some of those duets. And I would show you, but those duets are on my own old computer, and so I can't share iMovie with you right now to show you a current duet, because I don't have one on this computer. It's on my old computer.
Yes, thank you, Chris. You know what? There was Amy wrote that down. Really jam-packed session, and I didn't expect that we would be bombarded with so many things. After 2 years almost of online teaching, and I felt myself I was quite tech savvy, but there are so many things to learn. I want to thank Elaine. She was the one who bugged me with emails. Oh, we need a tech committee. Oh, we need it. And then I tried to think a little and thought like tech committee is good, but answering individual question instead of this, maybe we should have a presentation. I think you both did a wonderful job, and it was great to see how nicely you complement each other, with Shaun starting with the general overview and also helping us to rethink what to take care of when we have recordings or use our student images, and then Chris narrowing it a little bit down to what was working for his studio. So you gave us a lot of ideas. If you both can send me your Google Slides, they were very impressive, then I will make sure to send it out for everyone who would like to know more. Another idea was also when I started this, maybe to have a continuation of the tech talk next year. And I think you had on your slides so many other ideas, and there are more questions, and we would love to learn more. But there's also only a certain amount that we can really digest in 60 minutes or 75 minutes. So there will be maybe something. And Shaun, you are so good with your Google Forms. Maybe you can create something after I send out the Google Slides, if there is more interest, if you would like to learn more. I also realized that our community is multi-generational. And there are a lot of teachers who are actually my parent generation. And when I see my mom, she knows her smartphone and she can send text and see internet, but that's it. So my generation, as I said, I feel quite tech savvy with webcam, speaker, and microphone, and everything. Then my son is 14, and for him, I'm way too slow. So technology is going so fast, and I think it's important, and also for everyone in every age, to be on top of the trends. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise. And yeah, if there are any more questions, I think there might be a lot, but we have to first digest what we have, and maybe we can continue this then in another session. Thank you so much for being here. We didn't lose too many people, so it was really interesting. And the good thing is we are recording this, so you can catch up later on YouTube. Great. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of a Friday, and see you then next year again.